Hello wrestling fans, the Wrestling Wizard here, and welcome to Wizard Watch, the weekly show where we break down the top moments from this week's episode of SmackDown. Now, on a quick side note, if you're a Bray Wyatt fan of Firefly, fear not, there is a completely separate video breaking down the Bray Wyatt segment that we got this week. And I'm probably going to do this as the weeks unfold because there's far too much cryptic messaging in the Bray Wyatt segments. There's loads of Easter eggs. There's loads to unpack in the segments. So I can't really do it justice in like a 2-3 minute segment in Wizard Watch. So that's why I've dedicated a whole separate video to the Bray Wyatt storyline. So go check that out if you haven't already. But let's get to my other top picks from this week's episode of SmackDown. Now I've got to start off with the interaction I didn't know I needed in my life. The interaction between Charlotte Flair and Dominic Mysterio. This was brilliant, and I loved the fact that Charlotte was in like killer heels, and at like 5'10", she looked like an absolute monster, like towering above Dominic Mysterio, who, by the way, isn't a small guy. You know, he's like 6 foot, 6'1", and it was a great to and throw. I love the fact that they were just mocking each other back and forward. But what I love more is it looked like it 1 second that Charlotte Flair was going to deck the living daylights out of Dominic Mysterio. And let's face it, we all need a little bit of that in our life. And of course, this is all until we saw Rhea Ripley come down to the ring. We had this brief stare down. It looked like she wanted to deck Charlotte Flair. And then sort of Charlotte Flair said bye-bye. And that was the end of that. But nevertheless, I think they're heating up this matchup nicely. And let's face it, the right result will be Rhea Ripley going over Charlotte Flair on the grandest stage of them all and stating her intent. Next up, we got a little bit of a banger of a tag team match. We got a 6-man tag team match where we had Ricochet and Braun Strowman and Madcap Moss. Good to see that dude getting taken more seriously against Imperium. And yes, Imperium got the victory, and quite rightly so. Of course, Gunther looking like an absolute $1,000,000. But what we saw, of course, interestingly enough, was Drew McIntyre keeping note, staring down Gunther. So is that a potential WrestleMania tease where we get McIntyre versus Gunther on the grandest stage of them all for the IC title, or maybe more superstars brought into the fold alongside that as well? Of course, it wouldn't be an episode of SmackDown if we didn't see the Viking Raiders come out and attack Drew McIntyre or Sheamus, and they did just that, came out and attacked Drew McIntyre. Sheamus came to the rescue, so we're probably going to get that matchup again for the billionth time, and I'm not complaining. I love just seeing the Viking Raiders and the Banger Bros. Don't look that up on Google, whatever you do. I know I say that every week, but please don't. And we can watch those lot fight all day long. I'm sure of it. Now, next up, it's a top moment because I've got a little bit of a boo situation here. A little bit of a critique, and you know I'm often not negative when it comes to booking, especially Triple H's booking within WWE. But in 2023, there's no way on God's green earth that Kofi Kingston should be beating LA Knight. No chance. LA Knight came off a huge star in his rivalry with Bray Wyatt, and there's no way he should be getting beaten by Kofi, and that's no disrespect to Kofi Kingston, New Day, one of my favourite groups of all time, but it's 2023 here, and you really need to be making a statement with a red hot act in LA Knight, and coming out of a Bray Wyatt feud, you expect bigger things. Now, next up, we saw Karrion Kross beat Rey Mysterio, but more importantly, what came afterwards was more telling. The fact that we got Dominic Mysterio basically trying to get Rey Mysterio to hit him. He wants him to be violent. He wants him to take action because, after all, let's face it, Dominic Mysterio is the worst child in the world. Like, he's absolutely horrendous, horrific, horrible. I'm not going to keep repeating H's, but nevertheless, you get the picture. I think we're going to see Rey Mysterio versus Dominic Mysterio at WrestleMania, and it makes sense. And you got to think away from kayfabe, this has to have been Rey and Dom's dream all along for this to happen, for those two to face each other. Like, that must have been Dom's like childhood dream, to face his father on the grandest stage of them all, regardless of the shocking and compelling storyline between the Mysterios. And finally, we've got to finish up Wizard Watch with a Bloodline Sami Zayn Uso segment, right? And that is exactly what we got. And it all started with Paul Heyman saying to Jimmy that he needs to speak to Jay face to face, 1-to-1, oos to oos. And then later on, we got Sami Zayn and Jimmy Uso in a segment. And this was brilliant because Sami, I really feel, is getting home to Jimmy and making Jimmy see what is unfolding week on week. The fact that family isn't about being on trial week on week. Like, it shouldn't be like that. And if you go all the way back to the pandemic era, you got to remember what happened between Jimmy and Jay and Roman Reigns, and the fact that Roman Reigns basically beat the living daylights out of them to get them to acknowledge him. So surely they haven't forgotten that. Surely they're not just playing dumb, which brings a really interesting dynamic because, of course, as they were having that interaction, Jimmy attacked Sami Zayn, and then Sami Zayn hit the haluva kick on Jimmy, and then Jay was just standing there, like, not doing anything. Like, yes, he appeared, revealed himself, and you kind of thought, is he going to attack Sami, or is he going to come out and help Jimmy? And he hasn't done either. And so the questions are still there. Where is Jey Uso's alliance? What's going to happen? And does anybody feel like that we'll get Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens versus the Usos? They'll win, but then the Usos will finally realise what on earth is going on. And imagine, just imagine, they all cost Roman Reigns the title on the grandest stage of them all against Cody Rhodes. Now, as much as that would be cool, I don't think they should rush that. I think they should hold off on any bad blood between the two if they're still part, Jay and Jimmy, of the bloodline falling out of WrestleMania, and give Cody his moment clean if he's going to be the one. I don't think there should be dirty tactics. I think if Cody is going to take the belt, take it clean. Like, I don't want any dirty shenanigans along the way. But nevertheless, this storyline is so compelling. And finishing off on a positive note as well, a little side note, I'm liking what WWE are doing with Shayna Baszler and Ronda Rousey at the moment. They're booking them well. They're booking them as absolute badasses who don't need much time on the mic. Minimal time on the mic, maximal physicality. And of course, Shayna Baszler beat Natalya after Tegan Nox came out to try and rescue things. I have no idea why Ronda Rousey referred to Tegan Nox as Skittles, but we'll have to wait and see when we get an interaction between the two of them. And I like the fact that they're making fans now aware of Tegan Nox, and what greater way to do that than to have some form of interaction with a high-profile name such as Ronda Rousey. Ronda Rousey should be bringing up talent, not decimating talent. Thank you so much for watching the video. As always, be really appreciative if you could like the video, share the video, and even better, subscribe if you're new. And we'll catch you in the next one.